All right, welcome back. During that break, what we've done is we've just given those other crystals the same ability to fire a sound when they've been collected, and as well as turn off the mesh renderer and the collider component on each of those, so that they essentially are not able to be interacted with by the player anymore. So the last step in our demo scene here is to actually open the door when all of the crystals have been placed. And to do that, we're going to use another global variable. So let's go ahead and create that now. This global variable, this is going to just test whether or not we've collected everything. So the method that we're going to use to do this is we're just going to go ahead and count. So let me go ahead and press the global variable button to bring up the global variable window. And I'm going to create an integer. And we're going to just call this integer R. We'll call this R open, or we'll call it number of crystals. That's better. And I'll hit add to create that. So right now that number of crystals is at 0. So essentially the logic here is that when this number reaches 3, the door will then open. But until then, it's going to stay shut. So let's go ahead and we'll add to that global variable. We're going to add to that int every single time we collect a crystal. So I'll go ahead and just do that at the collected state of each crystal. So on each of those crystals, I'll add a int add action. And pretty simply, we're just going to add a 1 to that global variable number of crystals. Okay, and I'm just going to, because we have 3 of these, do a Control C. And I'll paste those. Oops. All right. Let me just add this the long way. Int variable number of crystals, and we're just going to add 1. So let's go ahead and do that one last time. Int add number of crystals, and we're going to add 1. There we go. Okay, so now with all of the crystals collected, that variable will now be 3. And we need to tell that door to open up once the number 3 has been reached. So I'll go back to our door detector, FSM. And right now we have that place yellow and that yellow pass being the last actions in that state machine chain, that test chain, but we're going to add one more test situation. So let's do a, we're going to do a control click to add that state, and this is going to be our door test. So both those finished states will add up there. And the 2 actions that can take place after that door test are obviously going to be that that door is going to open, or we're going to need to do a door closed, and the system is going to reset. So that door closed, we're going to use another trigger event if we wind up in that state. If we don't have all 3 of the crystals, we're just going to wait for the player to exit the trigger box again, and the state machine will reset, and when we re-enter, we'll go back through the checks to make sure that the player has actually gotten the 3. And that door test, all right, so let's go back here. We're going to add an action. We're going to need to do an int compare. So that's in the logic section. And we will compare our int that we created, that global int, number of crystals. We're going to compare that against the number 3, right? Because if we have 3, we can open the door. So if it's equal, well, let's go ahead and let's attach event to, so add transition true and add transition false. There we go. True, the door opens. False, the door stays closed. So back to that int compare. We're going to compare our integer against 3. So if it's equal to 3, then we can say true and we'll open the door. If it's less than, it's going to be false. Can't open the door. Greater than, we're just going to leave that blank because no way of that happening. So, all right, if it's equal to 3, open the door. If it's less than 3, false. Okay. So let's go into the, now the door open. The door closed is set. We don't need to do anything except measure when the player leaves that trigger box. But in the door open section, what we need to do there is actually animate that door opening. So to do that, let's go ahead and do we're going to use an iTween action. Let me type in iTween. I'm not sure what the translate is called. iTween move by. I think that's what we want. Let's go ahead and check that one out. So, all right, the game object that we want to move is the door. So we need to specify game object. And we need to drag and drop in our door. The vector we want it to move in is going to be y. So that's in local space, obviously. So the vector is y. All right. We don't want this to loop. We want to set this to be self-space. Let's see here. We'll set the ease type. We'll do an ease out, ease in quad. No loop. And now that I'm looking at this, it looks like that vector we actually need to define how far up we want this to move. So that door, it's at 2.4 right now. So let's lift it up. Well, you know what? We're also going to need to parent that decal underneath it too. It's not currently parented. There's that quad. Name it and put it underneath the door. There we go. So now when we move the door, we should see all of those move at once. Okay, so it was at 2.4. We want to raise it approximately this much. So we'll say that that's about 6.4. So we need to move it 4 units in y. So I'll undo and I'll set that back down and I'll say 4 for the y vector. And that should happen maybe over 3 or 4 seconds. Make it nice and dramatic. Okay. All right, let's give that a check. Let's go ahead and see if that works. Oh, okay, we're just unable to move out of that place yellow state. You can see if we look at our FSM here, we just don't have a wait action to move us out because we had gotten rid of that previously. So let's go ahead and just copy and paste one from the blue section back to the place yellow. There we go. All right, now let's give it another shot. Here we go. Then the door goes up. Okay, cool. So it's working. If we get the 3, let's go ahead and test it to see if we can try to cheat it by getting less than 3. So I'll just collect 1. Door closed, doesn't work. We're in the door closed state, and now when we exit, it's going to send the reset. All right, so let's try 2. All right, so we're in the yellow pass state, and we're unable to move into that door test. So what we'll do is we'll add a wait state to that yellow pass. Actually, you know what? Instead of doing the yeah, let's go ahead and do that. All right. All right, so we've progressed into that door test. We failed the door test, and now we're in that door closed state. So we'll step out of it to reset that FSM, collect the final crystal. There we go. All right, so it's working as intended. The logic looks pretty sound from here. The last touch that I want to put on this is that we have sounds to go with everything else. We need a sound to go with that door opening up. So in the door open state, right underneath that iTween move by, let's go ahead and do another play sound advanced. Oops, play audio advanced is what it is. So, okay, we'll put this on, yeah, I guess we can play it on the trigger, no reason not to. If we wanted to have the sound effect follow the door, we could put the audio source on the door, but it's cool, we can put it here. I think it makes sense to have like the stone door shaking the door frame itself, so you wouldn't have that translate. All right, yeah, that sound effect is correct. Stone door scraping. Okay, so let's give that a try. All right. Okay, so that sound effect actually lasts 10 frames. Well, not quite the whole 10 frames. So right at about the 8 or the 9, it gets kind of quiet, and it takes only 4 seconds for that door to open. So that sound effect is going to keep playing beyond the animation. Those two things are not going to match. So let's just do a quick adjustment here to that iTween move by. So instead of taking 4 seconds for it to open, let's make it really dramatic, and we'll do like an 8.5, which should cover the duration of the sound. So let's give that a test. Okay, pretty dang close. And the sound, I think, just adds a really good feeling to it, especially when it matches the animation, which we have. Okay, so there you go. And then you can get to the other side of the door. You have a simple type of key collection mechanic that you can now integrate into the game, and hopefully build something cool or like have an awesome treasure once you get to that other side. But there you go. So just a quick recap of what we did in the lesson is we set up a couple of collectibles in the scene, and we also learned about global variables and how to add to those global variables or to modify them based on whether or not the object is collected.